China just pushed across a line the semiconductor industry said sanctions would hold. Not one factory making 7nm chips under sanctions. On March 16th, Reuters confirmed that Huawei Semiconductor is preparing 7nm production, making it only the second Chinese foundry after SMIC to reach that level. Beijing now wants to push advanced node output from under 20,000 wafers a month to 100,000 within 2 years without ASML's most powerful machines. If that number lands, the chip war doesn't just escalate. It fundamentally changes shape. Stay with me, because most people covering this are missing the 3 things that actually matter. And the third one is the one nobody is talking about. Before we go further, let's kill the most common mistake in this story, calling it a breakthrough. It is not. Not yet. China already had limited 7nm capability through SMIC, proven in 2023 when Huawei's Mate 60 Pro appeared with a Kirin chip that shocked analysts who said it shouldn't exist. The phone went on sale quietly. No press conference, no announcement. Just a chip that wasn't supposed to be there, inside a device that went straight to consumers. That moment sent a signal. And Beijing heard it. What's new now isn't one factory doing something impressive in a controlled environment. What's new is a second foundry entering the picture, and a government pushing hard for 5-fold output growth across the entire advanced node base. That is a completely different kind of development. A breakthrough proves something can be done. A scale-up asks whether it can survive reality, yield, tooling, supply chains, cost per wafer, and sustained manufacturing discipline over months and years. In semiconductors, that second stage is where almost every ambitious roadmap goes to die. The graveyard of this industry is full of processes that worked beautifully in a lab and collapsed the moment someone tried to run them at volume. Huawei's initial target is modest, low thousands of 7nm wafers per month by year-end, per Reuters. Small by global standards. But that is not the point. The point is what happens when a second foundry starts accumulating process knowledge. In semiconductors, industrial learning compounds. Every month of yield data teaches engineers where the process is fragile. Every defect analysis closes a gap. Every solved integration problem moves that factory one step closer to the point where real scale becomes viable. You cannot buy that knowledge, you cannot import it. You have to earn it, wafer by wafer, shift by shift, on a production floor. And that is exactly what Huawei is now being pushed to do. Beijing isn't building one impressive chip. It's building a base, a second site of advanced node learning inside China's industrial system. And a base is a much harder thing to sanction away than a single product or a single factory. The question is whether the base can hold, and to answer that, you need to understand exactly how hard what China is attempting actually is. Here is where most coverage gets lazy. Because this is the part that actually matters, and it requires more than a headline to explain. ASML's EUV machines print chip features using a wavelength of 13.5 nanometers. That is extraordinarily short, extraordinarily precise, and it can print the finest features on a chip in a single pass, which keeps the manufacturing process relatively clean and controllable. Without EUV, Chinese foundries fall back on older DUV tools, deep ultraviolet, which use longer wavelengths and simply cannot print as fine a pattern in one shot. So, to work around that, engineers use a technique called multi-patterning. You print the same layer of the chip multiple times, from different angles, at different offsets, so the combined result produces features as small as EUV would make in a single step. It works, but it is brutally unforgiving. Every extra pass demands near-perfect alignment, at tolerances measured in fractions of a nanometer. We are talking about positioning accuracy so tight that thermal expansion from the heat of the room itself becomes a variable engineers have to account for. Every extra pass creates more chances for contamination, more chances for a particle to land somewhere it shouldn't and ruin an entire wafer, more chances for compounding errors across a longer process chain. And here is the brutal mathematics of yield. If each individual step in a process has a 99% success rate, which sounds excellent, and you add enough steps, your overall yield can still fall off a cliff. A longer process chain doesn't just add cost, it multiplies risk. China's own industry leaders have publicly described their domestic ASML alternative as, and these are essentially their own words, small, fragmented, and weak. That is not spin. That is an admission from people who understand exactly what they are up against. Now here is the thing most people miss about that 7 nanometer label. It is not a precise measurement anymore. Modern node names are essentially marketing categories. What actually matters is whether the process delivers the transistor density, the power efficiency, the performance, and the manufacturing repeatability that the label is supposed to represent. China may be printing features that qualify on paper. Whether those chips yield well enough, cheaply enough, and consistently enough to matter at industrial scale, that is an entirely different question, and one that no lab result can answer. The enemy at this level is not export controls. It is physics, yield, and manufacturing discipline. And this is the part nobody says clearly enough. The machine is not the real barrier. The ecosystem behind the machine is the real barrier. ASML is not just a vendor that sells a tool. ASML sits at the center of a supplier network built over 3 decades. Precision optics from Zeiss, light source systems, metrology software, contamination control, field service infrastructure deployed globally, and thousands of engineers whose entire careers are built around keeping those systems running at the edge of what physics allows. You cannot copy that ecosystem in a 5-year plan. You cannot sanction your way to it. You have to build it from the ground up, supplier by supplier, process by process, with no shortcuts and no guarantee that any individual piece will work the way you need it to when the whole system comes together under production conditions. China knows this. Its own executives have said so publicly. That's what makes this attempt so significant and so hard. Here is where the story stops being about semiconductors and starts being about something much larger. The United States and its allies did not build export controls around China's chip industry because chips are just another industrial product. They did it because advanced semiconductors now sit at the operational center of AI infrastructure, missile guidance systems, hypersonic weapons, military electronics, satellite communications, and economic competitiveness in ways that were simply unthinkable 15 years ago. Every serious AI cluster runs on advanced chips. Every modern radar array, every autonomous weapons program, every mass surveillance system operating at national scale. This is not a story about cheaper smartphones or faster gaming processors. This is a story about who controls the computational foundation of the next 30 years, and whether that foundation can be held by one side of a geopolitical contest. So, when Beijing targets 100,000 advanced node wafers a month under full sanctions, this is not a supply chain story. It is a direct operational test of one of the most important strategic questions of this decade. Can technology denial actually hold against a rival of this size, this determination, and this level of state-backed capital? And here is the uncomfortable paradox that most serious analysts know but rarely say clearly. The harder you cut a rival off from the frontier, the more pressure you create for them to build their own. Sanctions raise costs. They create delays. They absolutely slow things down in the short run. But applied to a rival large enough and patient enough, they can also force a level of self-sufficiency investment that would never have existed under normal market conditions. The isolation itself becomes the motivation. And motivation at this scale, backed by this level of state capital, has closed technology gaps before in history. That is not an argument against export controls. It is a clear-eyed warning about what they can and cannot accomplish alone. Because this is how technology wars are really lost, not in headlines, in factories, quietly, over years, while everyone is arguing about the policy. And then there is Taiwan, because there is always Taiwan. China's push toward domestic advanced node capability is not only about catching TSMC commercially. It is about reducing strategic dependence on a supply chain that, in any serious Taiwan Strait crisis, becomes one of the most dangerous fault lines on Earth. Every advanced wafer China can produce domestically is one less point of external leverage over Beijing's most critical long-term contingency planning. The chips and the geopolitics are not two separate stories. They are the same story. So let's land this, clearly, without spin in either direction. China has not broken the wall. It has not replaced ASML. It is not threatening TSMC's position tomorrow morning. The tooling is incomplete. The yields are uncertain. The process is more expensive and more fragile than global best practice. Anyone telling you this is a solved problem is wrong, and anyone telling you it doesn't matter is also wrong. The real bottleneck was never one machine. It was the ecosystem behind the machine, the decades of supplier depth, process knowledge, field service capability, and manufacturing discipline that turn a tool into a system and a system into a production line that runs 7 days a week, 3 shifts a day, at the edge of physics without falling apart. That bottleneck is real. It is still significant. China has not cleared it. But here is what the actual history of industrial catch-up shows over and over. Things that were supposed to be impossible have a consistent habit of taking longer than expected, costing more than expected, and then happening anyway. Not because the laws of physics changed, because determination, capital, and time eventually find a way through gaps that looked permanent. The chip war is not over. But understand what just shifted. This is no longer a story about whether China can touch the leading edge. It is a story about whether China can hold the leading edge long enough, at enough volume, across enough foundries, to make the question of who controls advanced computing genuinely contested for the first time. That is a different war than the one most analysts were describing 2 years ago. It is harder to win. The margins are thinner, the timelines are longer, and the outcome is no longer obvious. The machine matters, but the will to build the ecosystem behind the machine, that is what decides this, and that will is not going away. If you want to follow where this goes, the next export control package, the Huawei ramp numbers by year-end, and what this means for AI chip supply chains heading into 2027, subscribe now and drop your answer in the comments. Can China actually scale to 100,000 advanced node wafers a month within the next 2 years? Or does the ecosystem bottleneck stop it first? I'll be tracking that number. When the answer arrives, I'll be here with it.